Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching Earth grow smaller through the main viewing screen. This would be his last mission to the outer edge of human space. At least, it would be the last one anyone would know about. The ship hummed quietly around him as his crew worked at their stations. Lieutenant Ben Collins sat at the engineering console, his fingers dancing across the controls. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was at the science station, her eyes focused on the readings from their latest survey. None of them spoke about what was really happening. They all knew, but they kept quiet. For 40 years, humanity had lived under the watch of the Galactic Council. The alien government controlled which planets humans could visit. They decided what technology humans could use. They even told humans how many children they could have. The council said it was for everyone's safety. They said humans were too young, too wild, too dangerous to be left alone. Jake had been to the council chambers on Proxima Station many times. He had watched Ambassador Lisa Parker try to speak for humanity. The aliens would nod and smile, then ignore everything she said. They treated humans like children who could not be trusted with sharp objects. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her station. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "Captain, we're getting the final clearance codes from Earth Command." Jake nodded. Earth Command was not really on Earth anymore. Most of the important people had already left. What remained was a clever trick of lights and computers, making it look like humans were still living their normal lives. The plan had started 5 years ago. Dr. Katie Sullivan had made a breakthrough in communication technology. She found a way to send messages faster than light without the council knowing about it. At the same time, Commander Ryan Hayes was building ships in secret. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The council thought they were watching everything humans did. They had sensors around Earth. They had spies in human cities. They tracked every human ship that left the solar system. But they did not know about the hidden construction sites in the asteroid belt. They did not know about the secret colonies being built in systems too far away for their sensors to reach. Jake walked over to the communications station where Lieutenant Claire Foster was working. Her screen showed the status of evacuation fleets. Across human space, green lights meant groups had safely reached their pickup points. Yellow lights meant they were still moving. There were very few red lights. "How many more?" Jake asked quietly. Claire checked her numbers. "About 2 million people still on Earth. Another 500,000 scattered across the colonies. Dr. Green says the automated systems are ready to take over." Dr. Nancy Green was the smartest person Jake had ever met. She had figured out how to make Earth's cities look alive long after the last human left. Holographic people would walk the streets. Automated factories would keep running. Even the farms would keep growing food, though no one would be there to eat it. The trick was not just to leave. Anyone could pack up and go. The trick was to leave without the council noticing until it was too late to stop them. Every human departure had to look normal. Every empty building had to seem occupied. Every missing person had to appear to be still living their regular life. Jake thought about his last meeting with the council's local representative, a tall gray alien named Overseers. The creature had complained about human mining operations taking too many resources. It had warned Jake that humans needed to slow down their expansion or face consequences. Jake had nodded and agreed, just like humans always did. But inside, he was laughing. If Zefta only knew what humans were really doing with those mining operations. Every ton of metal they pulled from asteroids was going into the construction of colony ships and defensive systems. Every rare element they gathered was being used to build technology the council did not know humans possessed. The secret was not just better ships or weapons. The secret was that humans had learned to think differently than other species. While the council was focused on controlling what humans did today, humans were planning for what they would do tomorrow. While the aliens were counting human settlements, humans were building new ones in places the aliens had never explored. Ben Collins turned around in his chair. "Captain, we're getting word from the Saturn facility. The last construction team just finished their work. All evidence has been destroyed." Jake smiled. The Saturn facility had been building the most important ships of all. Not warships or colony vessels, but the ships that would carry human culture and knowledge to the stars. Libraries, museums, genetic banks, and technology archives. Everything that made humans what they were was being packed away and sent to safety. Dr. Rodriguez spoke up from her station. Sir, I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from the Council patrol ships near Mars. They're running deeper scans than usual. This was expected. The Council was not stupid, just slow to react. They would eventually notice that something was different about human activity, but by then, it would be too late. The last human transports were already beyond the Council's ability to track them. Jake had seen the destination lists. Some human groups were going to planets in nearby star systems. Others were heading for the Galactic Rim, where no Council species had ever traveled. A few brave souls were even planning to cross the void between galaxies. Humanity would be scattered across the universe, making it impossible for any single enemy to destroy them all. The communication screen lit up with an incoming message. It was from Colonel Steve Williams, who was coordinating the final evacuation. From Earth, his face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. Jake, we're down to the last few thousand. The automated systems are taking over city by city. By tomorrow, Earth will look exactly the same from orbit, but there won't be a single human left on the surface. Jake nodded. What about the other colonies? Clean sweeps everywhere. The mining stations, the research facilities, even the diplomatic posts. Every human is either gone or going. The Council won't find so much as a human hair when they finally figure out what happened. Claire Forster looked up from her communications panel. Colonel, what about the families who wanted to stay? Some people didn't want to leave their homes. Steve's expression grew sad. We convinced them it wasn't easy, but we showed them the Council's real plans. Once they understood what managed decline meant, they changed their minds. The managed decline was the Council's secret policy toward humanity. Jake had learned about it from intercepted communications that Ben Collins had decoded. The Council planned to slowly reduce human population through various restrictions: fewer children, limited resources, reduced territory. Over a few hundred years, humans would simply fade away. The Council thought this was merciful compared to direct extermination. Jake walked back to his captain's chair and sat down. Through the viewing screen, he could see other human ships moving through space. They looked like normal transport vessels carrying normal cargo, but each one was filled with people who would never return to Earth. Children who would grow up among the stars. Scientists who would make discoveries the Council could never imagine. Explorers who would find new worlds beyond the reach of alien control. The plan was simple in concept, but incredibly complex to execute. Every human had to disappear at exactly the right time. Every automated system had to activate precisely when needed. Every piece of evidence had to be either destroyed or carefully hidden. One mistake could expose the entire operation. But humans had always been good at doing impossible things. They had survived ice ages and plagues. They had built civilizations and torn them down and built them again. They had reached for the stars even when everyone told them they were not. Ready? Now they were reaching farther than ever before. Jake pressed the communication button on his chair. All stations, this is Captain Morrison. We have clearance to proceed to final coordinates. Next stop, the unknown. The New Horizon turned away from Earth and accelerated toward the edge of human space. Behind them, the blue planet continued to shine with lights and movement. But it was all an illusion now. Humanity had departed silently, leaving only shadows. And echoes behind, the Council would eventually realize what had happened. But by then, humans would be gone, scattered to 1,000 different worlds, building a future no alien government could control or destroy. Overseer Zefter of the Altarian Collective stared at his communication display with growing confusion. For the third time this week, the human diplomatic response had arrived 6 hours late. The message itself seemed normal enough, full of the usual human apologies and promises to do better. But something felt wrong. Zefter had been dealing with humans for 15 years. He knew their patterns. Ambassador Lisa Parker always responded to Council communications within 2 hours. Her messages were always detailed and professional. These recent responses were too short, too simple. They sounded like a human was writing them, but they did not feel like Parker's work. He tapped his long fingers against his desk and decided to contact Trade Representative Valdurin from the Crystalline Hegemony. If anyone would know about changes in human behavior, it would be Valdurin. The crystal being monitored all human commercial activity across 12 sectors. Valdurin's image appeared on Zefter's screen, the creature's crystalline body reflecting light in sharp patterns. Overseer, I was just about to contact you. We have a problem with human trade shipments. What kind of problem? Zefter asked. They have stopped, not all at once, but gradually over the past 2 months. First, the luxury goods from Earth stopped arriving. Then the agricultural products from their farming colonies. Now even basic raw materials are missing from scheduled deliveries. Zefter felt a cold sensation in his chest. Have you contacted their trade offices? Of course. They send polite messages saying there are temporary delays due to equipment maintenance. They promise everything will return to normal soon, but the delays keep getting longer. This was not good news. Human trade was essential to several council members' species. The humans produced certain foods that other races had grown to enjoy. They also provided unique manufactured goods that no other species could make. If human trade really was stopping, it would affect the entire galactic economy. Meanwhile, on Earth, Colonel Steve Williams walked through the empty streets of New York City. The holographic projectors were working perfectly. From orbit, the city looked busy and alive. Cars moved through the streets. People walked on sidewalks. Lights turned on and off in apartment buildings. But Steve was the only real person for hundreds of miles. He spoke into his communication device. Control, this is Williams. Manhattan sector is fully automated. All human personnel have been evacuated. The voice that answered belonged to Dr. Nancy Green, speaking from a hidden command center deep underground. Confirmed, Colonel, how are the projection systems holding up? Perfect so far. The Council orbital sensors are detecting normal human activity levels. Temperature signatures match expected population density. Even waste heat from buildings is being simulated correctly. Steve walked past a cafe where holographic people sat at tables. Their images so real they seemed to be having actual conversations. The projectors could create any scene the control computers decided was necessary. If Council scouts ever came down to street level, they would see humans going about their normal daily lives. They just would not be able to touch those humans or talk to them. Dr. Green had spent 3 years perfecting this system. Every detail had to be exactly right. Human cities had specific patterns of energy use, waste production, and traffic flow. The automated systems had to match all of these patterns while using no actual humans at all. Back on Proxima Station, Zefter was meeting with other council representatives to discuss the human situation. The meeting room was filled with beings from a dozen different species, all looking concerned. Commander Trilonox of the Hegemony Security Forces spoke first. My scouts report that human ships are still moving through normal trade routes, but when we try to make contact, they give brief responses and change course quickly. Have you tried to board any of these ships for inspection? Asked Counselor Mordain, a tall being with blue skin and multiple arms. We attempted to do so twice. Both times, the human ships claimed to have dangerous cargo that required special handling. They requested permission to dock at remote stations instead of allowing boarding in space. Zefter processed this information. Humans had always been cooperative during ship inspections. They complained about the inconvenience, but they never refused outright. This new behavior was very unusual. Trade Representative Valdurin S. Crystal body flashed different colors as she spoke. There is something else. Our economic analysts have noticed that human worlds are still importing certain goods, but at much lower levels than before. It is as if their population has decreased significantly. Decreased how? Mordain asked. We have not detected any signs of plague or natural disaster in human space. We do not know, but the numbers suggest that human worlds are using only about 30% of their normal resource consumption. Either they have become incredibly efficient, or there are far fewer humans than our population estimates suggest. On Earth, Colonel Steve Williams received an urgent message from Lieutenant Claire Foster, who was monitoring Council communications from a concealed station on the moon. Her voice came through his earpiece clearly. Colonel, the council is starting to ask serious questions. They are planning to send investigation teams to several human colonies next week. Steve was not surprised. The plan had always assumed the council would eventually notice something was wrong. The goal was to buy enough time for all humans to reach safe destinations before the council figured out what was really happening. Which colonies are they targeting? First, Steve asked. Mars, Europa, and the mining stations in the asteroid belt. They want to conduct surprise inspections to verify population counts. Steve smiled grimly. Those locations had been evacuated months ago. The automated systems there were even more sophisticated than the ones on Earth. Council investigators would find busy mining operations, active research facilities, and thriving communities. They just would not find any actual humans. Dr. Nancy Green had thought of everything. The automated systems could simulate human voices for radio communications. They could create heat signatures that matched human body temperatures. They could even produce waste products that suggested normal human biological activity. Unless the council investigators brought very advanced detection equipment, they would never realize they were looking at an elaborate illusion. But Steve knew the deception could not last forever. Eventually, some council agent would demand to speak face-to-face with a human administrator, or they would run tests that the automated systems could not fake, or they would simply notice that no human ever seemed to get sick, make mistakes, or act in unpredictable ways. The key was timing. Every day the deception continued was another day for human transport ships to reach their final destinations. Every week the council spent investigating was another week for human colonies to establish themselves in unexplored regions of space. Back on Proxima Station, Zephyr was receiving reports from across the galaxy. The pattern was becoming clear. Human activity was decreasing everywhere, but slowly and subtly. Individual changes were small enough to explain away, but taken together, they painted a disturbing picture. Fleet Admiral Catherine entered the meeting room, carrying a data pad full of sensor readings. Overseers, I have completed the analysis. You requested human ship traffic has decreased by 60% over the past 4 months. Most remaining ships are automated cargo vessels running predictable routes. What about passenger ships? Mordain asked. Almost none. We have detected only a few dozen human passenger vessels in the entire galaxy over the past month. Before this period, we would normally track hundreds of such ships every week. Zephyr felt his confusion turning into genuine concern. Where are all the humans going? They cannot simply disappear. Admiral Catherine's expression was grim. That is exactly what appears to be happening. They are disappearing. Not all at once, but gradually and systematically. Whatever they are doing it very carefully. The meeting room fell silent as the council representatives considered the implications. If humans were deliberately reducing their visible presence, it could only mean they were planning something significant. But what could they be planning that required such secrecy? Commander Trelawnix broke the silence. We need to conduct immediate inspections of all major human facilities. If they are hiding something, we must discover what it is before they complete whatever they are attempting. Zephyr nodded slowly. Agreed. But we must be careful. If we are wrong about this, we risk damaging our relationship with humanity unnecessarily. If we are right, he paused, not wanting to finish the thought. If they were right, it meant humans had been deceiving the council for months, possibly years. It meant human technology and organization were far more advanced than anyone had realized. Most importantly, it meant the council's control over humanity was not as complete as they had believed. The investigation would begin immediately, but Zephyr had a growing feeling that whatever they discovered would change everything about how the council viewed the human species in the empty streets of New York. Colonel Steve Williams looked up at the stars and smiled. The council was finally starting to understand that something was different, but by the time they figured out what humanity had really done, it would be far too late to stop it. High Counselor Mordain stood at the edge of Times Square, his forearms hanging at his sides in complete shock. The street should have been filled with thousands of humans going about their daily business. Instead, there was nothing but empty air and the quiet hum of hidden machinery. The holographic projectors had failed when his investigation team brought advanced CAS scanning equipment to Earth. What had looked like a bustling city from orbit was revealed to be an elaborate illusion. Buildings Buildings stood empty. Streets held no real people. Even the famous yellow taxis were just light patterns created by sophisticated technology. Report, Mordain said into his communication device. Commander Wylanth's voice came back immediately. Sir, we have completed scans of 12 major human cities. All show the same pattern. No human life signs anywhere. The atmospheric composition suggests no one has been living in these places for at least 4 months. Mordain walked toward what appeared to be a busy restaurant. As he got closer, the images of human diners flickered and became transparent. He reached out to touch one of the holographic humans, and his hand passed right through it. What about the suburbs and rural areas? He asked. Also empty, sir. We found automated farming equipment still working in many locations. The crops are being harvested and processed, but there is no one there to eat the food. Everything is being stored in massive warehouses. This was impossible. Earth had a population of 8 billion humans just 6 months ago. People could not simply vanish without leaving some trace of where they went. There should be evidence of mass transportation, abandoned belongings, or at least some kind of goodbye message. But there was nothing. The humans had left their planet so cleanly that it looked like they had never existed at all. Back on Proxima Station, Ambassador Vexarone of the Hegemony was reviewing reports from investigation teams across human space. Every single human colony, research station, and mining operation told the same story. The facilities were running perfectly, but no humans could be found anywhere. The mining stations were particularly puzzling. Asteroid mining was difficult work that required constant human supervision. Yet the automated systems were operating more efficiently than they ever had when humans were actually present. Somehow, the humans had created technology that could do their jobs better than they could. Vexarone called up the files on human technological development over the past decade. According to council records, humans had made steady but unremarkable progress in areas like space travel, communication, and industrial automation. Nothing in these files suggested they were capable of creating the sophistication systems now running their empty colonies. Either the council's intelligence gathering had failed completely, or humans had been deliberately hiding their true capabilities. For years, Dr. Quintal, the council's chief strategist, was working in her laboratory when the full implications of the human disappearance finally became clear to her. She was a member of the Nexari species, known throughout the galaxy for their analytical abilities. Her brain could process information and identify patterns faster than any computer. As she reviewed data from dozens of investigation teams, the pieces began to fit together in a way that made her feel cold inside. The humans had not disappeared. Suddenly, they had been leaving gradually for months, possibly years. Every departure had been carefully planned to avoid detection. Every empty facility had been prepared in advance with automated systems, sophisticated enough to fool council. Sensors, this level of coordination required planning on a massive scale. It meant humans had been working together across their entire civilization, keeping the operation secret from billions of their own people, as well as from the council. It suggested a level of unity and discipline that no council species had ever achieved. But the most frightening realization was about human technology. The automated systems now running human facilities were not just advanced, they were revolutionary. They demonstrated capabilities in artificial intelligence, holographic projection, and system integration that exceeded anything in council databases. If humans could create such technology in secret, what else were they capable of? Dr. Quintal sent an urgent message to the High Council. Emergency session required. Human disappearance represents potential threat to council security. Recommend immediate full-scale investigation and preparation of defensive measures. Meanwhile, Admiral Catherine was leading a fleet search of nearby star systems, looking for any trace of where the humans might have gone. His ships carried the most advanced sensors in the council arsenal. They should be able to detect human energy signatures, ship exhaust trails, or communication signals across dozens of light years. They found nothing. It was as if billions of humans had simply stopped existing. No ships had been detected leaving human space. No new colonies had been established in any known systems. No distress signals had been received from anywhere in the galaxy. Admiral Catherine had fought in 3 interstellar wars and explored uncharted regions of space for over 50 years. He had never encountered anything that made him feel as unsettled as this complete absence of evidence. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from Scout Team 7. They found something unusual in the Vega system." The Vega system was 15 light years from Earth and had never been colonized by any species. Council surveys had determined that none of its planets were suitable for habitation. It was exactly the kind of place that would normally be ignored. "Put them through," Catherine ordered. Captain Zolkaris appeared on the main screen, his expression troubled. "Admiral, we have discovered evidence of recent mining activity in the asteroid belt here. Someone has been extracting large quantities of rare metals, but we cannot determine who or when." "What kind of mining signatures?" Catherine asked. "That is the strange part, sir. The extraction methods are unlike anything in our databases. Whoever did this used technology that could harvest an entire asteroid in a matter of hours. Our best mining equipment would take weeks to achieve the same result." Catherine felt his stomach tighten. "Any indication of who was responsible?" "None, sir. The operation was conducted with complete stealth. If we had not been specifically looking for anomalies, we would never have detected the evidence at all." This was exactly what Dr. Quintal had warned about. The humans were not just hiding. They were actively using advanced technology to gather resources while avoiding detection. They were preparing for something. But what? Back on Earth, High Counselor Mordain was exploring the underground command centers that had controlled the holographic deception. The technology he found there was beyond his understanding. The humans had built quantum computers more powerful than anything the Council possessed. They had developed energy sources that produced no detectable emissions. They had created communication networks that operated on principles Council scientists did not recognize. "Counselor," Commander Wylanth called from across the room. "You need to see this." Mordain walked over to where Wylanth was examining a large display screen. On it was a star map showing the entire galaxy with thousands of red dots scattered across unexplored regions. "What am I looking at?" Mordain asked. "Near. As we can determine, sir, these are potential destination coordinates. The humans appear to have identified habitable systems in areas we have never surveyed. Some of these locations are hundreds of thousands of light years from here." Mordain stared at the map in growing horror. If this information was accurate, humans had not just left Council space, they had spread across the entire galaxy. They had found worlds the Council did not even know existed. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "We do not know, sir, but the implications are... ... Wylanth paused, unable to finish the sentence. Mordain understood. If humans had really established colonies in all these locations, they now controlled more territory than the Council itself. They had access to resources from thousands of star systems. They had populations scattered so widely that no single enemy could threaten all of them at once. The Council had tried to contain humanity by restricting them to a small number of systems. Instead, they had motivated humans to spread farther and faster than any species in galactic history. Dr. Quintal's analysis had been correct. This was not just a disappearance, it was a strategic repositioning on a scale that changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Humans were no longer a junior species that could be managed and controlled. They had become something else entirely. The question now was what they planned to do with their new freedom and capabilities. Would they simply live peacefully in their hidden colonies? Or would they eventually return to settle old scores with the Council that had tried to suppress them? Mordain looked at the star map again, counting the red dots that represented potential human worlds. There were thousands of them. If even a fraction were real, humanity had just become the largest civilization in known space, and the Council had no idea where they were or what they were planning next. The search would continue, but Mordain suspected it was already too late. Whatever the humans had set in motion, the Council was no longer in a position to stop it. They could only wait and see what humanity would do with their newfound power. 2 years had passed since the discovery of empty human worlds, and Commander Wylanth was no closer to finding a single living human than he had been on day one. His fleet had searched over 3,000 star systems, following every possible lead and investigating every unusual energy reading. They had found nothing except empty space and the growing certainty that humans were somehow watching their every move. Wyland stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Vigilance, staring at another negative sensor report. His crew had just finished scanning the Kepler system, which had shown promising signs of recent activity. Like all the others, it turned out to be a false lead. "Commander," his science officer reported, "we have completed deep scans of all planets and major asteroids in this system. No signs of human presence, current or past." "What about the energy readings that brought us here?" Wyland asked. "Natural phenomena, sir. Solar flare activity from the local star created electromagnetic signatures that resembled artificial power sources." Wyland nodded grimly. This was the 47th false alarm in 6 months. Either humans had become completely invisible, or they had developed technology that could mask their presence from even the Council's most advanced sensors. Back on Proxima Station, the economic effects of humanity's disappearance were becoming impossible to ignore. Trade routes that had operated for decades were collapsing. Entire industries that depended on human-produced goods were shutting down. The Council had tried to replace human products with alternatives from other species, but nothing worked quite the same way. Captain Zalkaris was reading reports from across Council space when he realized the true scope of the problem. Humans had not just been suppliers of goods, they had been the glue that held many parts of the galactic economy together. Their trading ships had carried cargo between species that refused to deal directly with each other. Their diplomats had negotiated agreements that kept old enemies from starting new wars without humans. The galaxy was becoming a more dangerous place. Zalkaris called up the latest security reports and felt his mood grow even darker. 3 border conflicts had erupted in the past year between Council member species. 2 trade wars were threatening to spread into actual violence. The crystalline hegemony and the Altarian collective were barely speaking to each other over disputed mining rights. When humans were present, they had somehow managed to keep these conflicts from growing out of control. They had been mediators, problem solvers, and neutral parties that everyone could trust. Now that they were gone, old hatreds were surfacing everywhere. The irony was bitter. The Council had removed humans because they were worried about human unpredictability causing problems. Instead, the absence of humans was causing far more problems than their presence ever had. Meanwhile, in a remote sector near the galactic rim, Mining Station Commander Felthar was discovering that humans might not be as gone as everyone thought. His station monitored asteroid mining operations across 12 uninhabited systems. It was boring work, but someone had to keep track of resource extraction to prevent unauthorized mining. Over the past 6 months, Felthar had noticed irregularities that made no sense. Rich asteroid fields were being completely harvested overnight. Entire planetoids full of rare metals would simply disappear. But no ships were detected entering or leaving these systems. At first, Felthar assumed his sensors were malfunctioning. He ran full diagnostics multiple times and found nothing wrong with his equipment. Then he thought pirates might be using some kind of stealth technology, but pirates took only the most valuable materials and left the rest. These operations were taking everything, including common metals that were not worth the effort to steal. Felthar sent a report to Fleet Command, but got back a standard response saying his concerns would be investigated when resources became available. With most of the Council fleet searching for humans, there were no ships available for checking on missing asteroids, so Felthar decided to investigate himself. He took his personal scout ship to the Proxima Centauri system, where an entire asteroid belt rich in platinum had vanished in the space of a single week. What he found there changed everything. He thought he knew about the human disappearance. The asteroid belt was indeed gone, but it had not been mined in any conventional sense. The rocks had been completely disassembled at the molecular level. Not a single particle of debris remained. Even the ice and dust that normally filled such regions had been collected and removed. More importantly, Felthar's ship detected traces of exotic energy signatures unlike anything in Council databases. The technology used for this operation was so advanced that Council scientists would need years just to understand how it worked. Felthar sent an encrypted message to Admiral Kethron immediately. "Sir, I believe I have found evidence of human activity. They are not hiding in distant systems. They are operating right under our noses, using technology we cannot detect. Admiral Catherine received a message while his fleet was investigating reports of equipment failures in the Vega sector. Over the past month, Council ships had been experiencing mysterious malfunctions while patrolling certain regions of space. Navigation systems would fail for a few minutes, then return to normal. Communication arrays would go silent, then resume working perfectly. Weapon systems would power down without explanation, then restart as if nothing had happened. The malfunctions were always temporary and never caused serious damage, but they followed a disturbing pattern. They only happened to ships that were conducting searches for human colonies or investigating unexplained phenomena. Admiral Catherine was beginning to suspect that these were not random equipment failures. Someone was deliberately interfering with Council operations, and they were doing it with such subtlety that it was almost impossible to prove. Navigation. Catherine called to his bridge crew, plot a course for the Proxima Centauri system. We need to investigate Commander Felthor's discovery immediately. As his flagship changed course, Catherine wondered what they would find there. If humans really were operating advanced technology in Council space without being detected, it meant their capabilities were even greater than anyone had imagined. Dr. Quintal was working in her laboratory when she received Admiral Catherine's preliminary report about the missing asteroid belt. She ran the energy signature data through every analysis program the Council possessed, but found no matches in any known technology database. However, the signatures did remind her of something she had seen before. During the investigation of Earth's abandoned facilities, her team had found traces of similar energy patterns in the underground command centers. At the time, she had assumed they were from unknown human power sources. Now she realized they might be evidence of something much more significant. Humans had not just developed advanced technology, they had created entirely new forms of energy, manipulation that operated on principles Council science did not understand. This technology allowed them to disassemble matter at the atomic level, transport massive amounts of material without detectable ships, and interfere with Council equipment from unknown distances. Dr. Quintal sent an urgent message to the High Council. Human technological capabilities exceed all previous estimates. They possess energy manipulation technology that could theoretically allow them to construct or destroy any physical structure. Recommend immediate defensive preparations and consideration of diplomatic contact. The response came back within hours. Diplomatic contact impossible. No known method of contacting human representatives. Continue analysis and provide recommendations for Council security. This was the problem that had been frustrating Council leadership for 2 years. How do you negotiate with people you cannot find? How do you defend against threats you cannot detect? How do you plan strategy against an opponent whose capabilities you do not understand? Commander Wylanth was discovering another piece of the puzzle during his patrol of the Outer Rim territories. His sensors had detected what appeared to be a derelict space station in an uninhabited system. When his team boarded the station to investigate, they found something unprecedented. The station was not derelict at all. It was a fully functional research facility that had been operating autonomously for months. The technology inside was clearly of human origin, but it was decades ahead of anything humans had possessed when they disappeared. More disturbing was what the station had been researching. The computer files were encrypted beyond Council ability to decode, but the physical evidence suggested experiments in advanced physics, exotic matter manipulation, and something the translation programs could only render as dimensional engineering. Wylanth realized that humans had not stopped advancing after they left Council space. If anything, they had accelerated their technological development without the restrictions the Council had placed on them. They were becoming more powerful with each passing month. The station's presence also suggested something else that made Wylanth feel cold inside. Humans were not just hiding in distant galaxies or unknown star systems. They were maintaining active operations in Council space, conducting research and gathering intelligence while remaining completely invisible to Council detection systems. 5 years after humanity's silent departure, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a ship that seemed to bend reality around it. The Pioneer's dream moved through space in ways that made Council physicists weep with frustration. It could appear in one location, disappear completely, then reappear somewhere else without traveling the distance between. It generated no heat signatures, left no energy trails, and responded to thoughts as much as to controls. Jake looked at the familiar blue marble of Earth growing larger on his viewing screen. He was coming home, but not as the same person who had left. 5 years among the stars had changed him, just as it had changed all of humanity. Communications, Jake said to Lieutenant Claire Foster, who had stayed with his crew through their long journey. Open a channel to Proxima Station. All frequencies, maximum power. I want every council member in the galaxy to hear this. Claire's fingers moved across controls that looked more like musical instruments than ship systems. Channel open, Captain. They're definitely listening. Jay took a deep breath and began to speak. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel, Pioneer's Dream. I am requesting immediate communication with the Galactic Council leadership. Humanity has returned. The response came within seconds. Overseer Zephyr voice, tight with tension and disbelief, filled the bridge. Captain Morrison, this is Overseer Zephyr. We demand to know where humanity has been for the past 5 years. Your species disappeared without authorization, abandoning your obligations to the Council. Jake smiled. Even after 5 years, the Council still thought they could give orders to humanity. Overseer, I think you misunderstand the situation. Humanity did not abandon anything. We simply chose to develop our potential without artificial restrictions. We are here to discuss the future of our relationship with the Council. Relationship. Zephyr's voice rose higher. You vanished from the galaxy. You left your worlds empty and broke dozens of trade agreements. You have caused enormous disruption to Council operations. Yes, Jake replied calmly. We did. And now we need to talk about why that was necessary. Within hours, every major council leader was gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on Proxima Station. High Councilor Mordain sat at the center of the curved table, flanked by representatives from dozens of species. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. When the doors opened, the council representatives expected to see Captain Morrison and perhaps a small diplomatic team. Instead, they watched in stunned silence as 12 humans entered the chamber. Each one moved with a confidence that had not been there 5 years earlier. Each one wore clothing made from materials the council did not recognize, and each one carried themselves like they represented a civilization that could not be pushed around anymore. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stepped forward first. She had been a junior officer when humanity left council space. Now she wore the uniform of someone who commanded fleets that could reshape star systems. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had learned to give orders that entire worlds would follow. Honored council members, she began. My name is Admiral Sarah Mitchell, representing the Human Stellar Collective. We have come to discuss terms of partnership between our civilizations. Partnership! Councilor Mordain struggled to keep his voice steady. 5 years ago, humanity was a restricted species under council supervision. You cannot simply return and demand equal status. Dr. Patricia Wright moved to stand beside Admiral Mitchell. She had been a research scientist when humanity departed. Now she represented advances in physics and engineering that made council technology look primitive by comparison. Counselor, Dr. Wright said politely, I think you may be operating under outdated assumptions. Perhaps we should demonstrate some of the advances humanity has made during our time away. She touched a small device on her wrist, and the lights in the assembly hall dimmed. A three-dimensional display appeared in the center of the room, showing a star map of unprecedented detail and scope. The map revealed not just the known galaxy, but 3 neighboring galaxies as well. Thousands of points of light marked human settlements scattered across distances the Council had never even dreamed of exploring. As you can see, Dr. Wright continued, humanity has been quite busy. We now maintain active colonies in over 1,000 star systems. Our population has grown to nearly 50 billion people, and we have established peaceful contact with 47 intelligent species that the Council has never encountered. The assembly hall erupted in shocked voices and panicked conversations. Fleet Admiral Kethrin stood up abruptly, his face pale, with disbelief. This is impossible. Our surveys show that most of those regions are uninhabitable. Ambassador Kevin Jose, who had been humanity's junior diplomatic aide 5 years earlier, stepped forward with a gentle smile. Admiral, your surveys were conducted with Council technology. Human science has advanced considerably since our departure. We have developed methods of terraforming that can make any planet habitable within a few years. We have energy sources that can power entire civilizations without depleting natural resources. We have transportation systems that make interstellar travel as simple as walking from one room to another. Overseer Zephyr was frantically consulting his datapad, trying to verify the information the humans were presenting. Even if what you claim is true, why did you leave without telling us? Why did you abandon your obligations to the Council? Commander Michelle Carter, who had coordinated the evacuation of Earth, answered that question. Because we discovered the Council's real plans for humanity. The Managed Decline Protocol. The gradual reduction of our population and territory until we simply faded away. You did not see us as partners or equals. You saw us as a problem to be solved through extinction. The Council chamber fell silent. No one had expected humans to know about the classified Managed Decline plans. The fact that they had discovered those secret documents suggested their intelligence capabilities were far more advanced than anyone had realized. Dr. Wright activated another display, this one showing comparative technological analysis. During our time away, we have made breakthrough discoveries in quantum mechanics, dimensional engineering, biological enhancement, and artificial intelligence. We can now manipulate matter and energy in ways that your scientists would consider miraculous. We can travel between galaxies in a matter of days. We can create living worlds from dead rock and empty space. But we did not develop these capabilities to threaten anyone, Admiral Mitchell added quickly. We developed them to ensure our survival and growth. We learned that the universe is far larger and more wonderful than the Council ever told us. There are entire regions of space filled with resources and opportunities that no one has explored. There is room for everyone to grow and prosper without conflict. High Counselor Mordain finally found his voice. What do you want from us? Ambassador Ross consulted a document that seemed to be made of light rather than paper. Humanity proposes a new relationship based on mutual respect and benefit. We are willing to share certain technologies that could solve many of the Council's current problems. We can provide new energy sources, advanced medical treatments, and transportation improvements that would benefit all Council species. In exchange for what? Trade Representative Valdurin asked suspiciously. Recognition of humanity as an independent civilization with equal standing in galactic affairs. Ross replied, no more restrictions on our development or expansion. No more supervision of our internal affairs. No more treatment as a junior species that needs guidance from older civilizations. Commander Carter activated a final display showing economic projections. We understand that humanity's departure caused significant disruption to galactic trade. We are prepared to resume commerce with Council species, but under new terms that benefit both sides equally. We can provide goods and services that will improve life for billions of beings across the galaxy. Admiral Mitchell stepped forward again. However, we want to be absolutely clear about one thing. Humanity will never again accept restrictions on our development or threats to our independence. We have learned that we are capable of far more than anyone imagined, including ourselves. We have become something new during our time away. What have you become? Mordain asked quietly. Free, Admiral Mitchell replied simply. We have become truly free. Free to explore, to grow, to discover, and to choose our own destiny among the stars. We offer that same freedom to anyone willing to work with us as equals. The Council representatives looked at each other uncertainly. 5 years ago, they had been worried about controlling a single species confined to a few dozen worlds. Now they were being asked to negotiate with a civilization that spanned multiple galaxies and possessed technology beyond their understanding. Ambassador Ross placed a data crystal on the table. These are our formal proposals for future cooperation. We suggest you take time to review them carefully. Humanity is patient. We have learned to think in terms of centuries rather than years, And if the council rejects your proposals, Zephyr asked. Commander Carter smiled. Then humanity will continue developing and expanding on our own. We do not need the council's permission to exist and grow.